Oh, he'll be excited as well. Right. Hello, world. So, it's been really great to have you both over here for a session with our leaders at Bankwest and Tech Talk and really delving into digital transformation. So, to kick that off, what do you think are the key mistakes that you've seen leaders make when it comes to sort of handling digital transformation?
There's a couple of things. The number one biggest issue that leaders, or mistake that leaders make, is they forget to prioritise. So there's all these different, wonderful different directions you can take things. There's a whole heap of different technologies you can play with. All this kind of, like, it actually is overwhelming. So being able to get clear about what the aspiration is that you want to actually look to shift to or transition to, transform to, is the first bit, and getting clear about that. And then looking at what technologies support that is the next piece, and then what activities drive that transformation. Right. So it's a clear neglect to prioritise is the number one thing that they get wrong. But and the caveat to that is that as our landscape is evolving so quickly, it's not one of those things that you can set 3 years ago and then work to for the next 3 years, right? But it's something that you need to look at and review and validate continually as you go through this process. So prioritisation is not something that happens once. It's something that needs to be built into your process. Yeah. That's the first thing. The second thing that leaders forget to do is they forget to stop doing. So they just put more stuff on top, right? Without looking to devolve or retire the practices and the things that are no longer getting them closer to where they want to be. Now, stop doing is actually really tough, because quite often there's all this emotion, there's all this legacy investment that's gone into these activities, right? So stop doing needs a project in the same way that start doing something does as well. And the stop doing is really, really hard. But it's prioritisation and stop doing.
Okay. And Kjaer, so I was going to bring you in and go, and where do you think the role of things like a enterprise social network and that leadership understanding can help with some of those issues?
So I think there's things that we know from digital transformation, it's got a huge impact on people. Like you can't have digital transformation without impacting not just your business, but that's made out of people. So the role that leaders play in that, and you take a business like Bankwest, that you are not just a Western Australian bank, you're global, or you're a national business now. And how do leaders have those conversations with people at scale? And I think that's one of the things. How do you do this at scale? Not just the digital transformation at scale, but the engagement. And as a leader, how do you engage with people at scale? And I think that's where Scott and I are so passionate about the role that digital technologies and collaboration technologies play. And the way that Bankwest in particular is using Yammer, the way that senior leaders are using Yammer to drive, transformation, we think is quite inspirational.
Excellent.
Because if you think about just innovation is usually fueled through the cross-pollination of ideas, right? So in tapping into different bodies of expertise. What blows me away is we now have access to the intelligence of 2 billion people in our pocket, right? So the issue now is not like knowing what to do, it's getting access to the right intelligence. We've got those same dynamics within the business. So within Bankwest, we know that there's a whole swag of intelligence around what the business needs to do, how we can improve things, what products need to be shifted, and how we need that's already 90% of that information is already in the business. What we're really crap at doing historically is accessing that knowledge. Yeah. And so that's really, if you're going to do it at scale, like Kai's saying, that's what we're actually doing. So we're facilitating that process.
Excellent. And do you think that's one of the key capabilities that you see in Bankwest around that transformation journey that we're undergoing at the moment?
Well, being in the top 5 globally, like Kjaer was part of your research piece. I think that's a big feather in your cap.
We did a global benchmarking study of a whole pile of Yammer networks, and that was a report that came out in 2017. And Bankwest, as we shared with you, have actually done, I shouldn't probably say remarkably well. It was probably a surprise that, anyways, but I don't mean that discouragingly. Yeah, no. It's just like you always surprised. You say, wow, on a global scale. And I think having been here now, I think there's something, the meetings we've had with senior leaders, during the sessions today, I think there's something about there's something about a collaborative DNA or something that Bankwest has got. I can't put my finger on it, but you've got 97% of people that have a Yammer account.
Yeah.
There's interestingly enough, even though we see how good you actually are, there's still this, or we aren't using it enough, or we could do better, or so there's this sort of sense of we could use it for much more, and I think that's interesting as well, given that you are using it well, but there's an appetite to do a lot more. I
think that's right. I mean, I'm a great believer that our Yammer network is it's kind of a virtuous loop with our culture. You know, it's both a mirror and a driver of change for our culture. You know, it reinforces itself by the things that we post and the way that people behave. And as it's grown and we've grown it organically, you know, people see that role modelling, they see the behaviour. That then encourages them to do the same. You know, if we want to shift some of that culture, we've got that platform, because it does always reflect back. So we really foster that kind of concept of this virtuous loop, and I think the success of that is down to, you know, a big part into the way that we drive the culture and behaviour, and rather than focus on the platforms. Yeah. You know, this making it as normal as possible. Yeah. Has been a real benefit for us, without these big fancy
without turning it into a total, you know, like, oh, this is fantastic, we can't do it any better. Yeah. We all know, and I think the people in the room also knew that they are certainly both at the individual level and at a business level things that can be done better. And I think there was what was inspiring was that there was a desire. And we know that you're undergoing a whole range of work around business transformation. Yeah. And we could see from the senior leaders there was an appetite to tap even more into getting feedback from people, the collective intelligence that Scott talks about, you know, closing those feedback loops. And I think there's obviously more that could be done on that front. And
you guys are in a really great situation because we've got such a massive proliferation of technologies, right? So mobile technology is now everywhere. We've got AR, VR exploding. We've got Internet of Things. We've got drones, 3D printing. We've got AI that's just doing phenomenal things, right? So there's this barrage or this deluge of stuff and change and shift. But what people forget in all of that sort of confusion and complexity is that at the base of digital transformation, it is all about people, right? And it's the people that make the difference. Technology is merely the enabler for the things that people want, right? So if you don't have the people, the technology has no relevance. And you guys you've got a long way to getting the people right, and you're using technology to facilitate those proactive and constructive behaviours. So I think it's a really, even though, you know, like Kjaer said, you see yourselves a lot as having further to go. I think that's a really healthy state. Yeah. The second you lose that, as soon as you go into that hubris of expecting that you've got everything done and it's all, then you're actually in real danger.
Yes.
But you've got a curiosity, you've got a thirst to do more, you've got an enthusiasm, and you've got a movement building. So I think that's really positive.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. In that, as we've approached this, we've always approached it as it's the behaviours, it's the campaigns, it's the activity that's been important. Yammer, which is our social network, we just use that to support that activity. It's not the be all and end all. We've always eased away from looking at let's do a Yammer campaign, let's drive adoption by little competitions, or just, you know, the important thing has never been we need people on the platform. It's we need activity on the platform. It started quite small and it's grown organically, but I think that's really set that foundation for people to want to use it to reflect the activities and the things that they're doing naturally. Yep. You know, we do tend to be quite a collaborative approach to things, so we've just kind of capitalised on that and used that as a springboard to push the technology, rather than it being the classic let's push a technology and get people to adopt it and really kind of struggle with that challenge. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, that kind of sums up a lot of the visit, but is there anything else that you desperately want to share, or any other thoughts?
I could say a couple of things. Leadership were great. it was rare to get that many leaders together in a room for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks volumes. They're also engaged, they ask great questions, and they're obviously close as a group. I think that's really strong. It sounded like from your own transformation efforts, you're doing a lot of mode 1 stuff, so a lot of the optimizations and the efficiency piece. It sounded like the mode 2 stuff is kind of starting to simmer a little bit, but could use a little bit more attention.
Yeah.
But what was great in the leaders today was hearing them start to get the distinction between those 2 modes.
Yeah.
And also too, I mean, that was one meeting. Then we went into the next one where we had a number of people from the IT team. The next one was a number of leaders from spread around the business. In every group that we met today, they were highly engaged, highly open to discussion. So I reckon that shows that there's a depth of engagement and leadership through the business.
Yeah, and I think for me that's the power that we want to. That's where we think, probably why we think we can do more.
Yeah.
And why we feel that we're probably not doing as well as we do, because we know what the potential and that capacity is that we've probably built. But I think seeing people's interest and them going straight on and getting their SWOOP personas and things like that straight after the sessions has been really powerful, because I think that gives them that equipment and that knowledge and that backup that they're approaching this in the right way.
I think we had a good balance between Scott introducing people to the concepts of digital transformation, and then being able to then inject some practical examples about what really impactful senior leaders are doing, and taking it all the way down to individual behaviours. You talked about the SWOOP personas, what people need to do and how much they need to do. And I felt it was a receptive audience, so we've been very happy to be invited over here.
No, well, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you both. So Scott from Digital Infusions and Kjaer from SWOOP, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.